Good morning, class. Everybody come in and have a seat. How are you doing today?
Hello.
Are you doing good?
Yes.
All right, everybody come in and have their seat. Yeah, everybody find a seat. Your professor forgot his shoes though. All right, so today before class begins, we're going to watch a video on our projector. Here's a projector right here. Make sure you're paying attention, okay?
Yes. Okay.
Massive cabinet
Make sure you can hear it,
enterprise
okay? So it's a quick 4-minute video. I'm going to just make sure that you're watching.
And incentives. In the early days of Texas, during its early statehood period, cities and counties oftentimes tried to incentivize
If you want to take notes while you're watching, you
to
can.
build and to connect their communities. But state land grants and loans begin to be offered during the Reconstruction period. Well, then they're outlawed until they're once again renewed after 1869 with the Constitution of 1876. The Constitution of 1876
Make sure you're paying
allows
attention.
the state of Texas to give away an estimated 36 million acres of land to railroad concerns. This land will then be used to capitalize the construction of railroads. In the 1870s, tracks are being laid. We talked about that earlier. And the first real track that starts to connect a big swath of the country of Texas is the Houston and Texas Central Railroad, which goes all the way from Houston to Corsicana, then up through Dallas to the Red River.
Make sure you're paying attention, class.
There, it connects with Missouri, Kansas, and Texas Railroad coming out of Kansas City, and connecting through the town of Denison in 1872. So now all of a sudden we have the first unbroken train trip from Houston to Kansas City. By 1879, about 2,500 miles of track was laid.
2,500 miles of track.
Where it really starts to take off. 6,000 more miles of track are laid during this decade. The peak years are actually about 1881, 1882, and 1887. That's when the real building boom takes off. By the end of that decade, there's 2 transcontinental railroad routes across Texas. One, by and large, approximates, say, I-20 today. The other approximates I-10. So you have a northern route and a southern route. Outside railroad operators, begin to come in and buy Texas lines and expand them. One of the guys that's absolutely the best at this, Jay Gould. Jay Gould is also the guy that directed Jefferson. So Jay Gould, famous in American history.
You may want to take that note.
A very clever railroad man, also has his hands in the Texas railroad sector. Well, railroads need fuel, and so railroads often planted towns where they could have water stops, places for their crews to swap out, things like that. So now all of a sudden we have a new spacing of communities across Texas. Railroads also start to look for resources that can help fuel the railroad. In particular, they look for coal. And as you will discover later, they find some. Well, the vast majority of Texas railroads spread out across East Texas because that's where the people are. And this spreading out and connecting by rail of all these communities in East Texas spurs industrial development. All sorts of new
You hear that?
industries really get a boost or even made
You're
possible
paying attention, class.
because the railroad is in place. In turn, industry and connectivity attracts population. During the 1880s into the 1890s, West Texas is crossed by rails, but is still not fully accessible out in its interregions. It's really an East Texas phenomenon.
See all the railroads?
Yeah, I don't know if you're
All right. So, what do you think today's lesson might be about?
The railroads.
Very good. Have you ever been on a train?
Yes.
Do you remember where you went?
Fort Worth.
Very good. Trains are pretty cool, huh? All right. So, after watching the video, how do you think railroads impacted Texas?
Well, they carry things.
Like what? maybe?
Animals.
Animals, very good. So cattle. They also carried things like lumber, crops, and people. These are all things that we're going to get into later in the lesson. When did the railroad start in Texas? Did you pick that up in the video? It said it.
The 1800s.
Very good, the 1800s. Okay, so I have a little article here for you. But before we begin the article, we're going to go over 2 vocabulary words that you're going to see in the article that I'm not sure that you're familiar with yet. So I'm going to pass this paper out to you. Our projector is also going to be the Chromebook, the class set of Chromebooks. I'm going to hand you this Foursquare chart. We worked with Foursquare charts before, and there's 2 of them on the same page, okay? So for the 2 words are going to be sharecropper and immigrant. You're going to find the definition, you're going to write it in a sentence, you're going to find a synonym, and you're going to draw a short, quick picture, okay? I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to do this. Here's your paper. There's the Foursquare chart. If you need to use the computer, you can. Your class set of Chromebooks. We will discuss these after you're done. I'll give you just a minute. Remember, sharecropper and immigrant. Sharecropper and immigrant. If you need help, raise your hand, please. I'll be happy to help you. We just want to go over these before we begin reading so it all makes sense to you. Sharecropper and immigrant. Okay, it looks like you got them. We're going to go over the 2 definitions real quick. You're actually going to turn this paper into me at the end of class. For sharecropper, the definition that you should have gotten was a tenant farmer who gives a part of each crop as rent. Did you get that? Is that what your definition?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that means these people could have came and worked, say, hey, I'll come work for you if you let me stay on your place. So that's kind of how they shared each crop for rent for something. It didn't have to just be, it could be for food, it could be for shelter, really any necessity that they needed. And then immigrant, what you should have gotten for your definition, was a person who comes to live in a foreign country. Most of the time this is considered permanent. So that would mean like if somebody from China came and moved to America and they stayed here, they would be considered an immigrant. Do you have another example maybe?
People from Mexico.
People from Mexico, very good. So now that you've gone over these 2 vocabulary words and you filled out your Foursquare chart, you're going to see these 2 words in your passage. I'm going to go ahead and pass this out. Here's your railroad passage. I'm going to give you just a minute. Go ahead and read through that. Okay, it's got a lot of good information about the railroad on it. Make sure you read all of it. I think it's 2 pages. This is just going to kind of expand on what you learned from the video, kind of what we're talking about, and then we're going to talk about it some more. You're a really fast reader. I'm going to give you just a couple more seconds to finish up. All right, looks like you're finishing up with your reading. So hopefully you retain some of that knowledge. We're going to talk about everything in that packet here in just a second. But first what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this cause and effect sheet. I'm going to give each of you a cause and effect sheet. And I want you to fill this out. There's going to be 4 causes and 4 effects. We've worked on this in the past. You've used these. I'm going to let you choose any cause that you found in the article, and then you come up with the effect. Okay, so like an example would be, because the railroads carried people, that's the cause, and then the effect would be new towns grew throughout Texas. Okay, that was just one. Can't use my example. Got to come up with 4 more. I'll give you just a second. Hold on to your papers because we're going to turn these in at the end of class. So go ahead. You can use your packet. You can look through the packet and see if you can find 4 causes and 4 effects. This is individual work. Use your packet. You can read back through it. I'll give you just a few minutes to do this. And then we're going to talk about what we learned in the packet and tie it kind of into the video. You're doing good. We're halfway done. Ow, pencil. Does your pencil need to be sharpened now?
No.
Just making sure. You need to read through your packet anymore? Or are you coming up with them pretty good? You need help with anything?
I have 3 more.
Okay. I'll give you just a couple more seconds to finish up your last 3. I think your paper's helpful. We'll get that in just a minute, okay? Oh, you can reach it? Thank you. Okay, now that we're finishing up our cause and effect sheet, hold on to that. We're going to come back to that paper here in just a minute. Let's go ahead and discuss a few of the effects that the railroad had on Texas, okay? So kind of like we saw in the video, we found out that it carried things, right? It carried people, lumber, cattle, crops. What do you think happens when people and crops and cattle, what do you think happens when it moves across the state?
It builds towns.
Very good. It builds more towns, okay? And if more towns are being built, more money is being put into the economy, which leads to an economic growth, okay? So railroads now, we've learned that they're carrying things across the state of Texas. We're expanding Texas. We're pushing and we're pushing and we're pushing. And we got economic growth. We're moving crops from different places. We're moving crops more effectively and more efficiently, which is actually leading the producers to produce more crops because we're getting them out, right? You understand? Do you have any questions so far?
No.
So since we're leading this greater production of everything. More houses are being built, more people are being pushed across the state of Texas. Texas is exploding at this time. In the 1800s, there's towns going everywhere. People are making money. Life is great. But what do you think some of the cons of the railroad might be? So we learned about all kinds of positives that it had. What do you know of any cons maybe? It had a few in the article. Do you recall any?
Maybe cost a lot of money.
Very good. It was very expensive. To build a railroad was very expensive. A lot of times it was hard to find the money to put these railroads together. Yes, they were very expensive. And then what do you think happened to like the natives that lived in Texas before these railroads? So you got these people who have settled here and they've lived here for all these years, and then all of a sudden you have the railroad coming through, and what do you think it's doing to those people?
Moving them.
It's moving them, and it's just pushing them out. And what happens how would you feel if I came up to you and said, hey, I'm going to build that railroad right through where you're sitting right now, you're going to have to move? You get mad?
I'm going to say no.
You're going to say no, exactly. So a lot of times they butted heads, the natives and the railroad and the people of Texas. They would get in fights. Oftentimes it was ugly. It was gross. There was a lot of bloodshed. Because you wouldn't want to get up and move your house because somebody wanted to come build a railroad, right? That's not fair. But the railroad did have a lot of good things that came with it. That is oftentimes, people refer back to that as the reason why Texas exploded the way it did. Railroads were a huge factor in that. So on the back of your cause and effect sheet, now that we've talked about some of the causes and the effects, and we've talked about some of the good things and the bad things, I need you to write a 3 to 5 sentence paragraph on why you think, this is a personal opinion, on why you think the railroad was good and why, or why it was bad. Do you believe that the railroad should have came to Texas, or do you think it should have stayed out? It can be, you can go either side. How do you feel about the railroad? A 3 to 5 sentence paragraph over why you think the railroad was either good or bad. I'll give you just a minute to write that. Write it on the back of your cause and effect sheet. Remember to hold on to your papers, and we're going to turn these in at the end of class. Why do you think the railroad was a good thing or a bad thing? Think back of all of the things we talked about, the way it affected people, the way it affected the state, the economic growth, what it did to the natives. Wrap that all up. Decide on if you think it was good, bad. It may even be both for you. You could even write a sentence on why it was, a couple sentences on why it was good and why, and then maybe you can go back and say, but maybe these are some things I would do different. Put it into your own words. Put it into your own words. Okay, very good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around and I'm going to collect your 2 sheets. Actually, you can go and give me the packet too. Thank you. All right, I will have these graded for y'all pretty soon. You did very good. So now what we're going to do, still with the railroads, we're going to do something a little bit more fun. I'm actually going to let the class, you go ahead and we're going to split you up into 2 groups, okay? I know a lot of you are absent today. We're going to split you up into 2 groups. And if you notice when you walked in, I had all these boxes and all this art material. You're probably wondering what we're doing with it. We're actually going to make a box card. Okay, you're going to use any materials that you see over here against this wall. You're going to make your own box card. So one group, y'all get together. I'm going to let y'all decide on how you want to do it. And then this group over here, y'all get together, decide on how you want to do it. And at the end, we're going to share with each other. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making, kind of like you see a picture of the train, we're going to be making our own box card like off of a train. Okay, like I said, you can use any materials that I have. Sound good? Very good.